new evidence about Tupac and Biggie's and it completely flips the story we thought we knew. His Netflix series digs into gang alliances, industry pressure, never seen police audio from Keith D, and insiders claiming the East-West feud was actually a
Tupac has been the biggest secret in hip-hop. The world was kept guessing by rumors, plots, and unanswered questions until 2025, when everything we thought we knew was shattered.
For decades, Tupac and Biggie's deaths have been hip-hop's ultimate mystery. Rumors, conspiracies, and unanswered questions never stopped circling. But on December 2nd, 50 Cent dropped a Netflix doc that might finally crack the story wide open. What if the truth behind these legends has been closer than we ever thought? For years, fans have debated, speculated, argued, and even built entire YouTube careers around what really happened to Tupac Shakur. Now, out of all people, 50 Cent has stepped into the conversation and delivered information so precise, so detailed, and so rooted in history that even longtime hip-hop insiders were caught off guard. And the wild part, he didn't just give an opinion, he started connecting dots that were always there, but never fully aligned until now. It feels like one of those moments where a single sentence suddenly makes 2 decades of confusion finally click. The biggest shift comes from a mix of new testimony, old confessions, and a renewed spotlight on the people who were actually in the room. This time, it's not barbershop talk or recycled rumors. These are real voices, real recordings, real insiders who now feel either safe enough or boxed in enough to speak. And somehow, 50 Cent has become the megaphone, amplifying what was once only whispered in back rooms and sealed offices. One of the most shocking moments comes from Kirk Burroughs, a Bad Boy Records co-founder. Looking back with decades of perspective, what he reveals is genuinely unsettling. According to Burroughs, there was orchestration behind Tupac's situation, and Biggie was pushed directly into danger. Let that sink in. This isn't a random fan talking. This is someone who watched the industry operate from the inside. When he says orchestration, he's not talking about coincidence. He's talking about calculated moves, leverage, pressure, and a war far bigger than just Tupac and Biggie. And Burroughs isn't standing alone. Multiple insiders interviewed in the new documentaries agree on one key detail. Biggie did not want to go to Los Angeles. He didn't want to be anywhere near the West Coast at that moment. And honestly, who could even blame him? The tension wasn't just high, it was volatile. After Tupac's shooting, the atmosphere turned dark, aggressive, and completely unpredictable. Biggie understood that going to LA meant stepping straight into hostile territory. Even people in his inner circle admitted he had a bad feeling, like something was off. But here's the part that really hits hard. The label still pushed him to go. Why? Promotion. Life after death needed visibility. Let that sink in. One of the biggest artists on the planet saying he feared for his life. And the response was basically, you still have to show up. The album needs it. And only weeks later, he was gone.
Tupac.
It was really about both of them. Either one. It was
Tupac and Suge, you mean?
Yeah.
After the release of the new Diddy documentary titled The Reckoning, evidence suggests Diddy offered $1 million to 40 gang members at an event to take out Tupac. This would get the attention of the Las Vegas police where it was announced.
The docuseries doesn't frame this as bad luck. It paints a devastating picture that Biggie wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was guided there, almost delivered into it. This is where 50 Cent steps in like a floodlight, calling attention to something that stayed ignored for far too long. The real confession tapes from Keith D, not street rumors, not internet theories. Actual recordings from his protected 2008 police confession sealed away for years, where he walks through Tupac's killing step by step, moment by moment, with disturbing detail, like a story he never needed to rehearse. Hearing those tapes now, fully and in context, doesn't just add information, it flips the entire narrative on its head. In the audio, Keith D walks through the lead-up with unsettling clarity. He revisits the MGM Grand altercation, where Tupac and his crew jumped Orlando Anderson in the lobby after the Mike Tyson fight. According to Keith, that wasn't just a fight, that moment lit the fuse. The Southside Crips weren't about to let that level of humiliation slide. They regrouped, they got armed, and they moved with intent. Then comes the part that sounds cinematic but was terrifyingly real. The crew posted up outside Club 662, Suge Knight's spot, waiting. They didn't know the exact time Tupac would arrive, only that he would, and that's where chance took over. Spotting Tupac's BMW on the Vegas Strip changed everything. One wrong turn, one red light, one split second of visibility, and suddenly, the night was set in motion. Keith D describes the U-turn that put their car directly behind Tupac. He talks about passing the gun to the back seat. He recalls Anderson allegedly saying, "Give it here." And then the moment that's haunted hip-hop for decades, the burst of gunfire into the BMW that ended Tupac's life and reshaped music history forever. But here's the detail that has everyone shaken. In those same tapes, Keith D openly claims there was a bounty on Tupac and Suge Knight. This wasn't just revenge. It wasn't just rage. According to Keith, money was on the table, and the Crips only collected half because Suge survived. Sit with that for a second. The death of one of the greatest rappers ever wasn't only personal. it was transactional. When 50 Cent amplified this information, it didn't come off as clout chasing. It landed because it filled gaps people have been arguing over for nearly 30 years. It reframed the killing not as chaos or a street beef gone too far, but as something organized, funded, and carried out with purpose. And what makes this even heavier is how the new docuseries links Tupac's fate to Biggie's, because if Tupac's death was orchestrated, driven by decisions and money, most never. Soth and Biggie's might not have been random been random retaliation at all. It opens up a far more chilling possibility that Biggie's trip to Los Angeles wasn't just badly timed, but deliberately steered, that someone, somewhere, understood exactly what kind of danger was waiting for him. Watching 50 Cent lay this out piece by piece, tape by tape, feels like seeing a puzzle finally locked together after decades of missing edges. Things that never quite made sense suddenly start lining up, and it forces an uncomfortable question. What did the industry really know? Who stood to gain? And how much of the truth is still being kept in the dark? Because if these confession tapes stayed sealed for years, what else is still sitting behind closed doors? And now that pieces of the truth are finally surfacing, will the public accept what insiders have quietly hinted at all along, or are there still chapters no one's ready to open yet? It's honestly wild that after nearly 3 decades of theories, rumors, docs, and non-stop debates, it took 50 Cent of all people to help snap the final pieces of Tupac's story into place. And the crazy part, this wasn't luck. He didn't trip over the truth. He built a documentary that methodically lines up eyewitness accounts, police audio, sealed confessions, and unseen footage in a way that finally makes the timeline feel whole. For years, we've only had fragments, maybe this. I heard that, someone once said, but now, for the first time, the events lock in minute by minute. Everything connects. And it honestly leaves you sitting there thinking, how did nobody ever lay it out like this before?
Kerr's murder feels like it's moving at a snail's pace. It took 27 years for an arrest to be made.
There's only been one person ever arrested and charged in connection to the rappers, and that man was supposed to head to trial next month.
The documentary rewinds everything back to that night in Las Vegas, the night that permanently changed hip-hop. It starts where the energy was at its peak. Tupac celebrating Mike Tyson's lightning-fast 109-second knockout. You can almost see it. The MGM Grand buzzing, fans flooding the lobby. Tupac smiling, hyped, surrounded by his people and security. Pure celebration. That then comes the moment that flipped everything. Trayvon Lane, someone close to Tupac, spots Orlando Anderson in the lobby. And Anderson wasn't just some random face. He was a known Southside Crip, tied to a crew that already had friction with Death Row. Once Lane pointed him out, things escalated instantly. What followed the beating was caught clearly on MGM's security cameras and replayed countless times. But the documentary reframes it, not as a random fight, but as the spark that set the entire chain reaction in motion. When Tupac left the MGM that night, another crucial detail gets overlooked way too often. His security was unarmed, not by mistake, not out of carelessness. Vegas police had warned them earlier not to carry weapons, and this is where it turns tragic. Yaki Gaddafi, one of Tupac's closest friends, asked the bodyguard, "You got your gun, right?" That wasn't small talk, that was instinct. A gut feeling something was wrong, but the gun wasn't there. That single moment shifts the entire tone. They stepped into a dangerous night knowing they weren't fully protected. From there, the documentary tracks the timeline with almost uncomfortable precision. The white Cadillac beginning to follow Tupac's BMW, the way it lingered slow, calculated, sliding through traffic behind them. And then the image burned into history, an arm stretching out of the back window, not frantic, not reckless, controlled, deliberate. In that split second, everything changed.
To the MGM Grand in Vegas to watch the Mike Tyson fight. After that fight, another fight broke out in the lobby of the hotel when someone from Suge's entourage spotted a man named Orlando Anderson. Surveillance video showed Tupac and others essentially jumping Orlando Anderson.
Seconds. Tupac was struck 4 times. Suge Knight, sitting right next to him, tried to floor it, but the car swerved out of control. What makes this reconstruction especially chilling is hearing the police audio layered over it, because for the first time, the timeline and the confession line up almost perfectly. Every detail Keefe D described in his sealed testimony, the MGM beating, the Crips regrouping, the Cadillac pulling alongside matches the footage, police radio traffic, and eyewitness accounts. And then comes the part that still hits just as hard. No matter how many times people hear it, Tupac fighting for his life for 6 agonizing days. He was only 25. Just 25. The documentary doesn't sensationalize it. It lets the truth sit there. A young man who had the world in his hands, lying in a hospital bed, unable to outrun the violence that followed him. It's a reminder that behind the legend, the music, and the controversy, there was a real human being, one who never deserved to go out like that. Once those lost recordings surfaced, that's where 50 Cent's documentary separates itself from everything that came before. It doesn't treat Biggie's death as a standalone tragedy. Instead, it leans into what industry insiders have quietly said for years, that Biggie's killing was the second act of the same war. The same rising tension, the same unseen hands pulling strings behind the scenes. 6 months after Tupac was killed, Biggie went to Los Angeles. And just like Tupac in Vegas, he wasn't comfortable. He felt the pressure. His label pushed him to travel, pushed him to promote, pushed him even as he made it clear he didn't feel safe. And honestly, who would? The air was still heavy with grief, paranoia, and unresolved anger. Still, he showed up. Still, he attended the Soul Train after party. According to the documentary, what happened next feels disturbingly familiar. A dark Chevy Impala pulled up alongside Biggie's SUV. 4 shots were fired. Biggie was hit and died almost instantly. He was only 24, even younger than Tupac. The series includes never-before-seen footage from that night, capturing the immediate aftermath. Sirens, screams, people running in every direction, total chaos. You know the outcome. But watching it unfold still hits like a gut punch. What makes this even heavier are the testimonies. The documentary brings forward one of the most emotional moments comes from Biggie's mother, Voletta Wallace. She has always believed her son's killing wasn't random and wasn't just street retaliation. She believed industry forces were involved, that her son was caught in a web of power, pressure, and decisions far bigger than anything the public ever saw. For years, people brushed her words off as a grieving mother's pain. But when you place her belief alongside Tupac's timeline, the police audio, the confession tapes, and the pressure Biggie faced, it stops sounding like speculation. It starts sounding like truth.
Keith D's own mouth and insider confessions are exposing something bigger. Whispers that the so-called East versus West beef wasn't just about rap pride, but a high-stakes game involving real money and real power. Once those lost recordings came out,
50 Cent's documentary doesn't claim to magically solve every mystery, but it does something no other project fully managed to do. It lines up the facts. It shows the full chain of events. It exposes the patterns, the motivations, the movements, the decisions that connect both deaths. And in doing that, it offers a version of the story that finally feels complete. After watching it, it's hard to believe these were just 2 unrelated tragedies. They feel like chapters of the same story. A story that began with music, fame, and rivalry but ended because powerful people made choices behind closed doors. And 2 young men paid the ultimate price. It's honestly shocking that nearly 30 years later, it took 50 Cent to present a documentary that finally shines real light on the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. For decades, fans, journalists, and amateur detectives have tried to piece together what really happened in 1996 and 1997, but the stories never fully lined up. There were always missing pieces, contradictions, rumors, and conspiracy theories, and without voices from the inside, the truth always felt just out of reach. 50 Cent's project stands out because of the depth and precision of the evidence he presents. For the first time, viewers can watch reconstructions that align police reports, witness accounts, audio recordings, and previously unseen footage, creating a coherent picture of what actually happened. It's one thing to read that Tupac was shot or that Biggie died outside a party. It's another to see and hear, minute by minute, the chain of events that led to these tragedies and to realize how much could have been prevented.